Alright, so welcome to part 2 of our two-part video for lesson 4. In this video we're going to be talking about multiplying radicals. We've already really talked about multiplying radicals when we were doing our perfect square factoring by breaking apart a radical into the product of two smaller radicals. Today we're just going to be switching it. We can take two smaller radicals and multiply the insides and the outsides together to create one single radical. When I multiply radicals, the only requirement is that the index has to be the same. So I can't multiply a cube root and a square root together. They have to be the same index. And then I'm just going to multiply the outside numbers together, and then I'm going to multiply the inside numbers together. So let's take the square root of 3 times the square root of 2. The index is the same, they're both square roots, so the index is 2. So now I'm just going to multiply outside to outside. What number is really on the outside here is a 1. So really I'm multiplying 1 times 1, which is 1. Okay, so if I was to multiply the 1 on the outside and the 1 on the outside, I end up with 1. And then the inside, I multiply the square root of 3 times the square root of 2, which is the square root of 6. Okay, so 1 times the square root of 6, which is just the square root of 6. Then I have to look and make sure you can't simplify what is underneath your radical. Here, 6, if I was to break it apart, I know that 6 is a simplified radical because 3 and 2 have no common factors. So this one worked out nicely. I didn't have to simplify anything. But this is the part that will get you. You have to remember that once you multiply these radicals together, always look to see if you can simplify the radicand by taking out any like factors. So let's see. Our radicands are the same. Our indexes are the same here. We've got a 2 and a 2. So this means I can multiply outside to outside and inside to inside. So if I multiply 5 times 4, I end up with 20. And then the square root of 2 times the square root of 6 is the square root of 12. I look like I'm finished here, but I have to double check to make sure I cannot simplify that radical. And I know right now that I can because it has a perfect square factor. Okay? You can use prime factorization. I'm going to use perfect squares because I think it's a little quicker. So the square root of 12, I know 12 is the product of 4 and 3. Okay, so the square root of 4 times the square root of 3. I can simplify the square root of 4 into 2. Then I take these numbers and multiply them together. 2 times 20 is 40. And I'm left with square root of 3. So I end up with 40 square roots of 3. Okay, let's follow that same procedure here. Index of 2, index of 2, so I'm good to multiply. I multiply my outsides. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. And then the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, the square root of 4. I can go ahead and simplify the square root of 4, that's 2. So I multiply these two numbers together. Negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. Okay? So when I look at 10 square roots of 3 times 2 square roots of 18, multiply outside to outside, 10 times 2 is 20. Multiply inside to inside, square root of 3 times the square root of 18 is the square root of 54. I can't stop here. I have to make sure I can't simplify this radical, and I can. I'm going to break it apart, and I know that 54 is 9 times 6. Okay, 9 times 6 gives me 54, so the square root of 9 times the square root of 6 gives me the square root of 54. I can simplify square root of 9 into 3, multiply these two numbers. 20 times 3 is 60, and then I'm left with square roots of 6. Okay, so 60 square roots of 6. So one more, here's an outside number to an outside number, inside to a, well, I don't have another radical over here, so I'm just going to leave this as the square root of 10. So negative 6 times 10 is negative 60, and then I leave times the square root of 10. Can I simplify 10? And 10 is 5 and 2. No, I cannot simplify 10 any farther, but I needed to double check just to make sure. So I'm left with negative 60 times the square root of 10. Okay? So it's that time now to Whisk Bee. Watch both of these videos, summarize in 2 to 3 complete sentences, bring a question or two to class, and verify by having your parents sign in your planner. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and I'll see you tomorrow.